I'm looking at the chat. I recognize a lot of people from the Texas Waters webinar, so good to see you virtually on another platform. Um, so um, this is going to be Water for Wildlife. The difference when I do presentations and PowerPoints and things like that, they are a little bit of interaction. So a few of the slides, I know with the chat, only Terry and I see the chat, but I will repeat stuff that comes through the chat. So Water for Wildlife is a huge topic, and so it was hard to narrow it down. I can talk forever on water for wildlife, so let's have fun with it. Um, oh, maybe not. See technology, there it is. All right, so how much water is actually in Texas? So there's over 191 thousand miles of streams and rivers. There's more than 7 million acres of inland and coastal wetlands, and we're going to talk a little bit deeper about wetlands. Wetlands are unique features, and they're one of my favorite parts of waterways and aquatic habitats. More than 3 million acres of reservoirs and lakes, and 9 major aquifers and 22 minor aquifers. Some people said that they've seen 7 major aquifers. Some people say that they've seen data up to 24 minor aquifers. I generally get my information from Texas Water Development Board. And so give or take some of those numbers, but there's a lot of water. So how do we manage all this water? And so this is coming from Marty Kelly. Marty Kelly put this together, and I love using this. So if you haven't seen it, some of you may have seen it. He did one for water databases on the Texas Waters webinar. But how do we manage all this water? So this first map are all the counties in Texas. Just laying on top of that, you'll see that those are the rivers, streams, lakes, and reservoirs all throughout Texas. These are the number of springs. And then we have the major aquifers that we have all throughout. The next one's going to be the minor. So here's some minor aquifers that are added into that as well. The next one is groundwater conservation districts. Those are really important, especially since those are, more in your community. Those conservation districts, be active with those. Go to those meetings if they're open to the meetings. Texas Water Development, more go to those meetings. Protect water and have your voice. So one thing about the Texas Water Specialist is advocacy is part of those. I know if and I believe most of you or all of you are master naturalists, and you're sometimes the advocacy being part of TMN, but the advocacy for water and being your water ambassador is really, really important. So, attend some of these groundwater conservation districts. They're great people protecting the waterways. These are groundwater management areas. And then these are the river basins. And I know with the colors, there's a lot of them that are blue, and depending if you're on phone or not, it may be hard to see. But almost all of the water in these river basins and the watersheds lead to the Gulf. There are some up in the top that actually do not lead to the Gulf. So if you ever get a trivia question is, does all water in Texas flow to the Gulf? The actual answer is no, it does not. And so, um, and some people debate with me on that as well too. So I'm ready. No, I'm kidding. And so the next one is regional water planning areas. And these are wastewater outfalls. So wastewater outfalls, that's where it's a direct pipe into a water system, whether it be a river, a stream, those lakes, or the reservoirs. So those are actual wastewater outfalls. These are USGS gauges, really great information. There's some really good information that's out there that you can just type in your watershed, you can type in your address, your zip code, and you can find out all about the drinking water, the fish health, the water quality that's out there as well too. And a lot of it is being picked up by these gauges as well too. And then how about this one? This one is the Texas Water Development Board. These are the known groundwater well locations. So if they, if people feel that there isn't a strain on Texas waters, this map right here just goes to show what that strain really is. All those wells that are tapping into it. And like I said before, these are the known permitted wells. Who knows how many are out there on people's lands that they actually don't know about. And so that's a lot of resources. There's a lot more that can go on all those maps. And it gets pretty complicated, but TCEQ and Texas Water Development Board, those are the two major entities in the state that regulate water usage. Texas Parks and Wildlife, we're the ones that help protect and conserve the wildlife in the wildlife and also those habitats as well too. So this next one, this is where, hey, I just want to know what name in the chat any wildlife species that you've encountered in an aquatic system. And since it'll be Terry and I'll just read those off once they'll start coming through. And if you want, I think you're able to unmute with this one as well too. If you want to unmute and shout it out, you're more than welcome to. These are my favorite, so I'll wait for some that are coming through. These are my favorite, and as you can tell, they're a little bit northern species. So Monica said water snake. Thank you for appreciating well, I actually did say encounter, not what's your favorite? Nutria and alligators. Yeah, those are a couple as well too. Thanks, Wanda. So blue spotted salamander is what I have on there, and that I used to work in Illinois, and it was a hardwood forest with very clay bottom and absolutely beautiful blue spotted salamanders. They're adorable. Michael said terrapins. Carolina said moorhens. Oh, those are cool too. All the turtles. So thanks for doing the span of not just birds as well, reptiles, birds, amphibians. And then that bottom one, that's a true perch. It's a yellow perch. It's in the walleye family, and that just brings back memories. So it's not just the beauty, the charisma of the species that we have. It's what ties us to memories as well too. So the yellow perch and bluegill, I know a lot of people here in Texas call bluegill perch, but bluegill are actually bluegill sunfish family. And this is what an actual perch is. And Andy also said nutrias, mussels, and snakes. So thanks everybody for throwing that in. So just really quick, the ones that you encountered, how would you feel if those disappeared? Um, would you not care if there weren't that many snakes? Would you, with some of those birds, which the moorhens are beautiful birds, what would happen? How would you feel if those disappeared? This is where I like a little bit of interaction as well too, instead of just chatting. Oh, Janet said she'd really miss the native species. Yes. Thank you for putting in native species because that's really, really important to make sure. And that's one of the things we'll talk about conservation. Devastated, loss of terrapins would ruin my walks by the ponds in my neighborhood. Sad face, John. Great. Nutria can go and love the alligators. Alligators are spectacular. It hurts to lose species. Yes, most definitely. So that's what this talk is going to be. What I'm going to do is at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the Texas Water Specialist program. A lot of you are probably familiar with that. But what we're going to do is some of the species that we're going to talk about and the habitat. So first, we're going to just go, and these are posters. The way that Terry and I practice here is I can just pull over parts of my web page and I'm going to just show you guys a few things. I'm just going to flash it on the screen and I'm going to bring it back. Actually, one second. Did it stop sharing? Because my green is gone. Hey, Terry, do you know if it stopped sharing? The green box disappeared on me.
I'm only seeing the posters page.
Okay. No, that's good though. That's okay. Awesome. Thank you. The magic green box that goes around it saying that it was sharing disappeared. So these are posters. We don't have that many in print. We don't ship them, but you can download these if you wanted the posters. So all the posters that I'm going to show you, and at the end of my PowerPoint, I have a resource page with the links to these posters, but I just wanted to show you where you can get these posters. So these posters are found. So the Blackland Prairies, and I tried to do, we don't have a post oak savanna poster, so I didn't do that eco region. And so we're going to talk a little bit about first the Blackland Prairies. The Blackland Prairies, it's got fertile, dark soil, and it's some of the richest soils that are in in the world. They grow pecan, and it's pecan or pecans. That's what it is, pecans, cedar, elm, various oaks, and hackberry as well are on that landscape. The dominant grass is going to be the little blue stem. And so with the tall grass prairie, as you can see here with prairies, they're generally, we'll say, dry. And so with the prairies, though, you need those long, long roots. That's the best part of native plants. That's where those native plants and those long roots, that's where they're going to be able to tap down into the water that's farther down into the groundwater, as well as prairies with fire, lightning striking, and you'll see that there's fire in there. So when the fire goes, that's part of restoration and conservation of these remnant prairies that we have. And so because 2/3 of the native plant is actually in the ground, it's going to survive the fires. And it also those roots that break up all that soil, that's also very, very good for drainage, for rainfall. And in these areas, it's an annual rainfall of about 30 to 40 inches, generally in the Blackburn Prairie. And so these species rely on a lot of the seeds and the seed heads. So that's where, even in your backyard, I keep my seed heads up all the way into the springtime until I really see that nothing's visiting it because there's other food sources out there. So I don't take down my seed heads until springtime to support wildlife. And I really have changed most of my yard into native grass as well too. So with the prairies as well, there's only about 5,000 of the 5,000 acres of the 12 million acres that are in true prairie condition that's left here in Texas. So not that much that's here. So let's connect this to water. So connecting this to water, most of the time, like I mentioned, you're not going to have the freestanding water. You're not going to have any of that. And so but there's toads. The toads, there's got to be a water source because in amphibians, they're, early part of their life cycle. And so a lot of them will have ephemeral ponds. The ephemeral ponds are generally in the springtime. It'll hold the water until it dries up in the summer, and that's where you're going to get your amphibian species coming out of that. Um, Up in Illinois, and I don't know honestly, I'm not sure if it's the same here, but the turtle that's there, that little box turtle, it needs more sandy soil. So knowing and reading that Blackland prairies are clay soils, how cold has it been getting? We've been getting some snows, and I know Corpus got like an inch or two, but then I heard that was it Houston area got like no, I'm sorry, that was actually Mississippi, Alabama. I was at a conference, and they got like 6 inches of snow, and they've never had snow, and all of a sudden, boom. So, things are changing. So the Blackburn Prairie, with the connection to water and wildlife, it really is. The amphibians have most of the connections. A lot of those species that you're going to see on there, they're going to eat the seeds. They'll get their water content from their food, and they normally don't have that much drinkable water. The other, I wish they would put on here, one of the coolest plants is called cut plant. And cut plant, that is one, at least, I'm not sure if anybody wants to put in the chat as well too, because I'm still 7 years new to Texas. So if cup plant, I know you guys have compass plant, which is in the same, I believe, the same family, but cup plant, it's got adaptations that the leaves come together and it's fused and it actually forms this really amazing cup in the leaves. And the leaves, and I'm not exaggerating with my hands. My hands are actually smaller than the cup, the leaves itself. And so that's where when it does have that rainfall, that's where a lot of the water stays, as well to plants, as well as are adapted for the dry environments. They've got like the fuzziness to us, they're coarse. The compass plant changes its direction of the how it faces the sun in order for it to reduce the evaporation. So with connections to water, it's all about adaptations in a prairie. So the next one is going to be the Gulf Coast prairie. So with the Gulf Coast prairie and its marsh region, it drains really, really slow. They say about average of about 150 feet in elevation. And there's streams and rivers that flow into the Gulf through these areas. In this region, so this is considered one of the ecoregions. And as you can see on, I didn't point it out, but there's the ecoregions maps we have on our website as well too, to show what region we're talking about. It includes the barrier islands, the grass marshes, the bays, and the estuaries. And while I'm still talking, if you want to, what are a couple species that if we didn't have estuaries, what would we not have? So if you want to put that in the chat, I'll say it in a little bit, but if you want to put that in the chat, you're more than welcome to. Even in this area, because we're cool. And I will give some of the answers later on in just a few moments. So the Gulf Coast prairie, they're still going to have tall grass prairies, the oak parklands as well too. The average rainfall in this area is 30 to 50 inches per year. So a little bit more water. The soil is an acidic soil, and there's also going to be the sandy loam. There is the clays are pretty much the river bottoms in this area is where it's going to be clay soils. So the estuary areas are incredibly important for, yep. So we have red drum, we have migratory birds, most definitely, and then there's shrimp. There's I think one or two species of shrimp that they only reproduce in the estuary area because they require a lower salinity in order for their young to survive. And so if we didn't have estuaries where we have the fresh water flowing down into the salt water, we wouldn't have shrimp. So we wouldn't be enjoying those as well. So with this one, you can see that there's a lot more species. Is there any species on here that anybody wanted to specifically talk about um, or learn about? Because if not, that's okay, because I'm going to bring up the poster because what I wanted to show you, as well as I want to share a lot of our educational resources that you can use. So, and all of these are linked in the resource section. So don't worry about looking at what the website address is. I have these all at the end for you. So this is the blue crab. So we have really nice fact sheets that not many people know about. These can be printed. You can use them at events, educational events. You can use them when any of your master naturalists or the woodlands green when you're doing educational events as well too. So I didn't want to make the text too small, but this is the blue crab. So it has where they live, a little description about them, but then it's really awesome on what would be the back side of the sheet. It talks about the appearance, its habitat, its life history, its behavior, and a little bit of how these are now you know, these are some fun facts, and then how we interact, so the species and people. And so these are just some really good tools that you can use, and I'll just scroll to a couple other ones. So we have oysters. oh, another crab, but we have birds, not too many mammals in these, but this is just another really good resource that you can use for any educational components. So we'll go on to our next habitat. There we go, which is the northern piney woods. And so the northern piney woods, and I used to be a bald eagle handler, and let me tell you, the connection to wetlands with bald eagles is just spectacular. And I can go on talking about bald eagles forever. They're such a great species. But this one it's a lot of pine forests, and it's one of the last standing areas of with pine forests in this region, is what I was told. There with I'm sorry, with the evergreen shrub bogs and the cypress swamps. There's pines and oaks and the hardwood bottoms as well too. And so with the flooding, so I was mentioning that earlier. So the hardwood bottomlands, most of those are going to have the clay soils, and so when it rains, it's going to hold on, and so the percolation of the water is slowed down by clay. Obviously, with the sand, which would be on the coast, we're talking permeability and porosity and things like that. And so it would be the permeability, the water can go through all of the quote unquote holes of the substrate. In the Piney Woods region, it has about 35 to 60 inches of rain, so a lot more rain in that region. But that helps support the type of habitat that's here. There's mosses, there's ferns, orchids, sundews, and also the famous pitcher plants, which are really awesome as well too. There's oaks and elms along the stream, and then also magnolias. And so one of the regions that I haven't talked about are riparian habitats, and I'm not gonna, like, these are more ecosystems. Riparian habitats are their own, and we'll talk about that when we get to sort of stream flow a little bit. So with these species as well too, let me pull up. Oh, I can't grab. 1 second. There we go. So here's the piney woods, and this one I did the giant floater. I had to pull a mussel. I love mussels. Um, I just graduated with the Texas Master Naturalist, the Hayes County. I finally got in. I tried for 4 years to get in, and I actually had to drop my name. I had to drop the little, hey, I work for TPWD. Can you get me in? So I finally did that and I did get in, but thanks to Mary O'Hara, she let me in. She let me slide in. But we got to vote on what our chapter name is, and our chapter name is the Texas Fat Mucket. So the fat mucket is another type of mussel, which is fabulous on how they reproduce. There isn't a fat mucket fact sheet here, but one of the coolest thing about fat muckets and a lot of mussels is they have a lure. So this one you can see the tongue that's coming out of the mussel. The fat mucket has what's called a lure, and it looks just like a fish, and it wiggles when it's in the water. And when it wiggles and a fish comes to eat that lure, it lets go of all its glycidia. And so then it goes on the fish's gill. It is parasitic, but it doesn't harm the host. And then once they get old enough, they actually drop off the fish's gills. And so pretty sweet life cycle. So I had to pull they call them the livers or the kidneys of the waterways, so the giant floater. So same thing here, the appearance, the habitat, and the behavior that we have in this habitat. So the other thing is I used to lead bat walks as well too, where I worked. And so bats are truly amazing, and people are like, what do bats have to do with water? Well, where do a lot of their food source comes from? Their source comes from the waterways. So there's a couple down here in the water. Here's a little caddisfly. Here's a little, I think it's a water scorpion that looks like a Dobson fly. So a lot of those macroinvertebrates are water quality indicators. So those water quality indicators, and especially stagnant water, unfortunately, with mosquitoes. And so, but bats eat, depending on the species, they eat so much more than mosquitoes. It's amazing how much pest control that they do naturally for us. It's a group, bats are a wonderful ecosystem service that we have naturally. So if we didn't have healthy waters down here to be, we'll say, hosts for their nymphs, we wouldn't have the adults that would feed the bats here in Texas. So having the healthy waters gets to produce the food for the bats as well too. That looks like a back swimmer. It looks like a back swimmer. So the largemouth bass is eating the back swimmer. So different life stages of the fish as well, and even ducks will eat those. And so wood ducks are some of my favorites. Um, I used to be like along with the eagle, I was a handler of wood ducks as well too. So I got to actually raise wood ducks. They imprint within 24 hours. So I got to raise wood ducks in my bathtub in my apartment in Michigan. And then I got to gloves train them to sit on gloves for programming. So they're pretty amazing. And so um, this has the same thing, appearance, behavior, habitat. So I'm just showing you these because there's no way I can get through all the thousands of animals that rely on water for habitat. So I just wanted to show you some of our resources that we have as well, for you to either go back or use for education or use in chapter meetings to share that knowledge as well too, that you'll be able to take with you. All right. And a couple of these other ones, this is in West Texas, and so this is pretty much their springs in the desert grasslands. So all of this water comes from springs, and so you'll see it's just gonna one of there's a really good poster session that's the Texas Springs all around. It's based out of Wimberley, the Wimberley Watershed Protection. And they have beautiful posters of all the headwaters and the springs of Texas. They're absolutely beautiful. This is a poster that, and maybe I can send to Terry if anybody is interested. I tend to bring these to, here's my little plug for Texas Waters Day. Every year at the annual meeting, I have a 3-hour advanced training, and some of you have been to that. So thank you so much for supporting the Texas Waters program. But I bring these posters almost every year as well too. And we were talking about macroinvertebrates. I'm hoping to get the brand new macroinvertebrate sheet that TPWD has right now. It's called bug picking, and I've been trying to get it updated to be a statewide. And I have these, they call them like fundanas and stuff like that. So this is one that has let me see if it's upside down. It has all the macroinvertebrates. So I'll probably be giving these away at Waters Day. So that's a little bit of enticement as well too. And so we'll talk about macroinvertebrate. Every year, Texas Waters Day, the activities change. So a lot of people see it in the guide, in the program guide and say, I've been to that before. We do different activities every single year. So come on out. So even in the dry desert, West Texas, we have special habitats just to support a lot of the migrating species. So Janet said migratory birds. A lot of these wetland areas that we have, they're major stopping points for migratory birds. That this is their resting area. This is where they refuel to get their insects and their seeds, and just to stop and rest as well too. The red-winged blackbird. So this is the one with the shoulder patch. That's the male. This one, the one with the insect in her mouth. That's the female. So she'll sit on the nest. Males generally show up earlier to establish the habitat, and then the female gets to pick the male that she wants for the habitat. which is pretty awesome. And so a lot of migratory waterfowl as well that's around here. And so we can't forget our urban backyard. So with our urban backyard, it's equally as important. And so there's so much fragmentation and sprawl that's happening everywhere in the United States, everywhere in the world. So we just need to help wildlife and connect those fragments. And so by providing some water sources in our backyard, it is controversial, especially when we have some of the bird diseases that were going around. Finches, are really prone to conjunctivitis. So when they meet at the feeders, when they meet at the water dishes that people put out, that's where generally some of that is contracted. The bird flu that we had, that was just a lot of raptors didn't make it. And so it's the same with West Nile virus, black chickadees, blue jays, and crows. So the those were the top species, but the ones that survived are the ones that are a little bit stronger now, is what they are saying. So hopefully the ones that survived the bird flu are the ones that are stronger with their genes as well. But your backyard and your in urban area, suburban area, even if you're in downtown Houston, or any downtown area, if you put out some native plants in a container gardening, one of my favorite things is to see what native plants grow in container gardening, because I want to see how long it takes, how long they last. And so I've been doing a little bit of phenology um, as well too. I think it's called Time to Restore. That's another project that's here in Texas that's based on phenology. So that's something that is equivalent to like a cocoa Ross. You do it in your backyard. You take pictures, or you can go to a certain area, a community park, and you focus on one patch or one specific flower, and you watch it, and they want you to take pictures of it every single day to see when it blooms, goes to seed, or buds, blooms, and then seeds. So that's another project as well too. But your backyard is incredibly important to support wildlife with water. Just make sure, please clean your bird baths regularly. Um, and so, um, yeah, and a lot of times people say 1 to 10 bleach solution. Some people say Dawn dish soap because there's a duck on the front of it. Just make sure they're clean. That's all I gotta say. There's a lot of cleaning techniques that are out there. So this I'm just going to touch on just briefly. I'm going to go through these. So these are type of flow and the components. The first one, that is our low flow. That is one where we have periods of drought. There's no connection whatsoever between um, the streams. It's almost like little mini parts of the streams that are happening. That's going to impact water quality. So your dissolved oxygen is going to be lower. Um, and there's no in the aquatic habitat for things to survive, especially with the lower dissolved oxygen because of the increased temperature. Not much is going to survive. And it's not just because of those characteristics as well too. There's a lot of fish that need running water for their eggs to be able to be placed and float down a river. With this, just a quick story about there's two. It's a small eye shiner and the sharp nose shiner. And so this is based out of the Brazos River. So that's the only area that those are found. But because of human impact and because of what's going on with to no flow with the drought, and I looked on the drought map. And in your area, actually, you're not in a drought. But there are, I believe I counted, there's 40 public water systems that are at 180 days that they may run out of water. There's one, and there's actually two of them that are at they're less than 45 days of water capacity. There was one town that actually for 5 days, 4 to 5 days, was completely out of water. And so they had to fix pumps and things like that as well too. So it's really serious about whether there's drought happening in your area, but there's severe drought happening somewhere else in the state. And so with these shiners and these fish, they actually went out and they collected what they found was they think were the last ones, and they brought it to the hatchery for release later on. And that was, of course, during the 2011 droughts. The next one, the base flow, that's a regular flow. There's going to be a steady stream. That's what we called a normal flow. And that's going to support most of the life white bass. And so I'm just going to highlight some fish, white bass. They are active early spring spawners. They require running water, and the substrate needs to be gravel or rock. That's what's preferred. The females will go up to the surface, males will come along, and then there's the whole mixing of release of eggs and sperm, and so that will happen. And after the eggs, they will sink down to the bottom and they'll attach to rocks. And so they need that little bit of flow going over the eggs in order to provide the oxygen for white bass to be able to spawn and survive. So we need those at least base flows. There's high flow pulses. That's short durations. That's high flow events when there's storms. The really important part is that's where a lot of seeds disperse within those high flow pulse areas. It is also, it provides a little bit more. You can see that it goes a little bit up on the edge and its spawning habitat is there as well too. So there's a little bit more vegetation, but it doesn't put them over the banks. Like you can see that they may get trapped up there. And so the high flow pulses allows for a little bit more spawning habitat, and it helps the base flow and the high flow helps connect the connections of the rivers and along the rivers and the streams as well too. And so the alligator gar is one that actually prefers to live in the high pulse areas. And they say oxbow lakes as well too, but the backwaters of rivers that have high pulse rates is where they say alligator gars like to survive. And then we have the overbank flows. Those are the ones that exceed the normal channel. And so that's where riparian habitats are really, really important. And so they may connect things laterally, but when you connect laterally, just think about where that water is going. That's where the unfortunate part, a lot of nutrients and sometimes too much nutrients from people's yards, golf courses, things like that will flow into that area, and it's collecting all of that stuff that's being put on people's properties as well too. So in sediment, it'll pull sediment and pollution as well. Um, so of all of these, there's benefits to every single one of them. And human activity with dams will affect that as well too. So I'm going to head back to watershed functions really quick. And so these are just a few pictures from around Texas. And we talk about rain gardens are not really a wetland per se, but this is an activity that I absolutely love to do. And it talks about the benefits. And I'm just doing it virtually. And so, I mean, the wetlands provide the habitats for birds, fish, mollusks, mammals, amphibians, reptiles, insects, the whole gamut. So that's why I absolutely love wetlands. And also amphibians. The amphibians really depend on wetlands, especially the temporary ones as well too for reproductive. So this is where I kind of wish that we were in person or, chatting a little bit as well too. So these are you would bring pictures of different wetlands or a big picture of a wetland. And so then you would have a little like handheld fan. You can bring a sponge. It doesn't have to look like a duck in the duck shape. It just any sponge. You could bring a fake plant, a coffee filter. We all have old dishes that are laying around. So bring a low dish, some seed packets. So just bring a packet of bird seed, bring some band-aids, and then this one it's sort of hard with roots, but if you can find roots that are at any of the craft stores, that would help as well too. And so just because of time as well, I'm just going to breeze through this. And so the activity is, you would ask them, what's the purpose of the fan and what does it simulate in a wetland? And so, and what does it provide for wildlife? So the fan is simulating wind. So you'll need wind for seed dispersal, wind for lake stratifications, and the movement of the waves and things like that as well. The sponges, that's what's going to absorb a lot of the water, that soil type that it has. So it's the vegetation and the soil and the hydrology. Those are the three main things that are specific to wetlands and different watersheds. The roots, and we talked about the roots earlier. The roots are the ones that are going to allow for water drainage down into our aquifers and into our groundwater. So that'll help bust up for drainage. The seeds, that's going to provide the food for wildlife. Um, the plants, get rid of that because that looks like uh, reed, the cane reed back there, which is really, really bad. And so we talked about it, having native plants planted and doing that restoration. A flat bowl. You can use the bottom of the pots as well too. So that talks about how it holds the water, for animals to be able to, either the macroinvertebrates be in there or a stopping point for waterfowl or even just animals to come and drink from as well too. And then these two are just the Band-Aid is just, it helps heal the land. It helps take nutrients out, or not, I'm sorry, not nutrients, pollutants out of the water, and that's what the filter is as well too. So you can have and these are all household items that you can grab and use, and it's a really good effective tool. You can lay this stuff out on the table when you're doing events, and you can ask them, hey, what do you think this, what's the importance of this to wildlife and water? What's the connection? And so this is just, there's only about 4.4% of them left in Texas. And then I think it was 9 million earlier acres. And so those are just different facts. And it could be the inland versus inland and coastal as well too. Um, so just different areas in Texas as well too, to go and just recreate. So the one thing about um this program is sponsored by, or it's funded by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Sport Fish Restoration Grant. And so that helps fund conservation. And so buying a license, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not an angler, I'm not a hunter. There's a really good portion of those fees that actually goes to support the habitat of us going out and bird watching. And so those conservation, it's a conservation fund and a model then, and also going and supporting our state parks, where those in turn go right back to helping support the habitat and the wildlife that uses water as well too, especially our coastal and inland fisheries. They do a lot of water quality monitoring, and the spills and kills group and team. There's the rivers and streams team. So a lot of them are funded by that sport fish restoration that comes from licenses and the sporting goods tax as well. There's the Great Texas Wildlife Trails. This is run by Shelley Plant. And so um, you can go the interactive map. These aren't clickable on here. And so you can go and you can view the interactive map and it pulls you to the areas that you can go and you can view wildlife, as well as this is another one if within your chapter. She asks, she's got core group, and if you're interested, they look at one of the areas and you can go and you can monitor the site, look at the signage, and then you meet with her. I don't know how many times. It's as a group. So this is another also TMN service opportunity as well. So this is just ways to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. This is water conservation. And so all of this is great. We have all this habitat all over Texas to support Texas wildlife, but we need to do our part with water conservation. So the best place is at home, start at home. So one of the things is bathing practices. I have a timer. I've actually got it right here. And last year, anybody who got, I think it was like over 20 hours or something. And if anybody, I've got a whole bunch of these left. So if anybody's interested, so I have one in my bathtub, and I truly use it. I try to put my mouth where my words are. And so I spin it. If I'm not doing my hair, I give it one flip only, and I think it's 5 minutes. If I'm doing my hair, which does take longer, then I allow myself an extra turn. So that's, I believe it's a 5 minute timer. So limiting your shower is huge. Loads of laundry. Always do a full load. Don't just do one pair of pants just because you need that pair of pants. Um, and so, oh, cool. Thanks, Lisa. Lisa put, oh, it's in the chat. So, and I may not say the name correctly, so I apologize. Is it Karine Verbekmos?
Close enough.
Thank you. Sorry, I probably butchered that. Oversees the Adopt a Loop program for the Heartwood Master Naturals chapter. So thank you. So it's Krein. Thank you, Lisa. And so doing laundry, do a full load. Don't choose hot setting all the time. So that reduces your electricity use, and you know, it's all a big cycle. Brushing our teeth. I looked, and there's like 31 million people in Texas was the last census. I think it was like a 03 or 23 or 24. But there's about 30 to 31,000. So we're going to drop that down to 20 or not thousand. Wow, million, 20 million people. Those are the people brushing their teeth. They do it once a day. On average, it's about 1.5 gallons per minute. So if you factor 20 million people at and if they're brushing twice, that's 3 gallons. That's 60 million gallons of water if they don't turn and they're brushing for 2 minutes. So I keep harping, people are like, can we move on brushing teeth? But I really, and we sometimes if we just get back to the basics, if we think about that every single day, at least 60 million gallons can be saved just by turning our water faucet off when we're brushing our teeth. It's just literally going down the drain. So I still, if I hear it on, if I my bonus sons, they're there, and I was like, I'll go and I'll turn that faucet off. So also, there's a commercial that's out there that drives me nuts that they talk about oh, you only need to put in like one dish and one cup and one spoon because it's only, 2.5 gallons. Fill that thing up. And so I think this is the adult version of Tetris. Our cooking as well too, but the biggest one is going to be our landscaping. And so, I live in Kyle, which is in between San Marcos and Austin. And we've been in a stage 3 critical water conservation for almost 3.5, 4 years now. And I see people just I see them watering their lawn. And the unfortunate part is we need to work with HOAs because the HOA will find them if they don't have a pretty lawn. And so it's just really talking about water conservation practices. So I see that at 7:54. And I'm just gonna go through the Texas Waters. Most of you, I recognize, that commercial, John, yes, that commercial drives me crazy. It, it, it boils me. And so, I recognize a lot of the names as part of the Texas Waters program, especially if you've been with Terry with any of hers as well too. So I'm just gonna peruse through this. It's a, it's a volunteer-based program. It educates, and it certifies people to become water ambassadors. There is, at Texas Waters, it's the curriculum, it's PDF, and it is paper copy as well too. Printing has really become, quite costly, so I don't keep many in stock. But if you really want a book, I can send some to Michael is on. Michael and I have talked with the Heartwood and the Woodlands Green program. And so I'm working with Michael, and so we'll get some more books there when the next training happens as well. Um, there's advanced training, so it aligns with the master naturalist. So you need at least 8 hours of advanced training, and you can get that through a combination of watching the Texas Waters webinars. Um, your chapter may say that you need to attend live. For the Texas Water Specialist program, it's aligned with the Master Naturalist, but it's not a Master Naturalist program. It is a public program. So you can watch any of the recordings of the webinars, and I will count it towards your water specialist certification. Your chapter may not allow watching recorded webinars, and they may disapprove that, but because that won't count towards your TMN hours. I accept it for water specialist hours. So put it in there, whether it's approved or not approved. I look at that disapproved hours I still get and I still see, and I accept those hours. So if you want to, because that's the other one, reading the Texas Waters webinar or Texas Waters curriculum and answering the questions that we have on the website as well too. Those count for me. You don't have to form a group. But your master naturalist, you may have to do that in order for those to count. Attend the Texas Waters Day event, any watershed aquatic based field trips that are at the annual meeting, those count as well too. And any other approved. So the riparian training through the Texas Waters Resource Institute, AgriLife, anything that's water-based, it just only up to 4 hours. Stream Team, you can do Stream Team. Stream Team is a lot of times 6 hours. You can put all of those in so you don't have to do separate entries, but just know that 4 of those 6 hours count towards the water special. And it's just because we want you to be able to get your hours from multiple sources and from a TPWD source as well. And annual renewal, I'm a little bit laxed on this, but this is the most important part, is the 10 hours of volunteer service. And let me just go to this next one. Training and service are put into 4 categories: conservation, ecology, education, and stewardship. And so these are just examples. This website that's down at the bottom, it is linked in the water specialist webpage as well too. And so that's where you're going to get, and these are just examples. There's a lot of other projects that are either listed or not listed that you can do for training hours. And I just wanted to talk about really quickly aquatic science. It's a middle school, high school curriculum. This is also, there's a portal, a student portal. So if you wanted a little bit more background information, this is a lot more high tech, or adult language. Some high school teachers actually use the Texas Waters book instead of the Texas Aquatic Science because they feel it's uh, the vocabulary is a lot greater. And this is just some of the textbook. And these are the resources. And so those are all, I hyperlink them. I will send this to Terry. And just seeing it 7:58. But what I just wanted to really quick, let me show you the Texas Water Specialist website really quick. So the website is, here's the certification requirements. So you see that there's the 4 that are here. This is where you can click to get to the examples of the advanced training and the service. Annual renewal. If you're not, which I recognize a lot of you are, you're already started. as I mentioned before, at the Master Naturalist meeting, if you attend other sessions, the only way that I see ours is by this opportunity. So if you put in the annual meeting opportunity and you put in like watershed um, session, I don't see that. I only look for this opportunity in order to look for hours. For service, you would put your service in no matter how your chapter would like it, but there's a box that should show up. Where I'm having a lot of issues with VMS because they just did a huge upgrade. I actually, since January or since February, I just got access yesterday towards VMS to be able to look at people's hours. And so I'm literally March, April, and now May, I'm like 3 months behind in certifications because of the update and the changes that happened in VMS. I wasn't able to access information. So I just got that literally yesterday. And these are the webinars. So attend the webinars. The next one is Kelly. She is going to be talking about these programs. She's not leading these programs. So she's just going to be mentioning um, um, how to register for these, what they are, and all of these count for the water specialist. And here's all the past webinars. So just two more clicks, and these are linked as well too. These are absolutely wonderful. If you really want to know what your water footprint is and how to reduce it, take these two. These are spectacular. These are my favorites. So, and I think that was it. Let me just shrink that down. Yes. So that is it. Thank you so much for going through. Uh, it was pretty much ecosystems and habitats that support water and a little bit of conservation practices. And so if there's any questions, I see that it's 8:01. If there's any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them. Oh, let me stop share screen. There we go.
That
But
was
if not,
fantastic. And I'm gonna harp for just a second on the one thing you said.
okay.
I haven't fished in years and I've never been a hunter, but I buy that combo license every single year to support Parks and Wildlife. I
Thank
mean,
you.
what would we do without Parks and Wildlife? So yeah.
Thank you
And
so much.
somewhere along there I got old and they started discounting what I pay for that license. And you can buy it online as well as going to your local academy store. And I'm sure there's some other places you can buy hunting and fishing licenses. I'm seeing a lot of
That's not.
thank yous in there.
John's got a question and I'm reading his question now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's and I'll just summarize. There has been major movement in the last few decades towards use of surface water as a way to reduce overpumping on aquifers. That's a good thing for maintaining our groundwater supply, but I'm wondering if you can comment on the impact that it's going to have on riparian systems. So last year in August, our guest speaker, Dr. Robert Mace, he's absolutely amazing. He's the executive director and I think chief policy with the Meadow Center for Water and the Environment. He did one on rainwater harvesting. And so pretty much his the amount of water that's collected in rainwater harvesting to collect that surface water does not make an impact at all. According to, he showed a bunch of graphs and things like that. So if I'm reading the question correctly, and just to see if it has an impact on riparian systems and aquifer and groundwater recharge. According to him, and I've heard a lot of other people that no, it does not impact. So what you're collecting off your roof does not impact the amount of water going into the actual waterways. And that's if I'm reading that question correctly. So cool. Well, everybody, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's so good to see all the names that I see on the webinars and the people that I've seen at Texas Waters Day. And when I look at my Excel sheet and look at everybody who attends and supports this program. So thank you for letting me be on this side of the webinar.
We all love the program. I think you know that already. We
Yeah.
love the program and cannot say thank you enough for maintaining it for us and being there to be that bean counter so we can get our certificates and our
Yeah.
recertifications. So thank you
Yeah.
so much
Thank
for
you.
being here tonight. It was wonderful to hear your
Cool.
presentation. Terrific.
No
Yeah,
problem.
send me that resource page and
Okay.
I'll send it out to everyone who was here tonight.
Okay. Sounds great.
Thank
Have a one.
you.
Have a wonderful night, everybody.
One last thing.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
will have the recording of this awesome presentation available on Woodlands Green website within the next few days. So if
Okay.
anybody wants to share that with folks that couldn't make it, please do.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for
Good
being
night.
here.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.